Hi there, and welcome to BizTech's Aha, the coaching show. Now, this show is all about coaching and is produced in partnership with Corporate Coaching Academy. Today, we'll explore personal coaching and the challenges that parents face in connecting with their children. Now, to give us insights, we have Zoe Rodger. She's the certified professional coach and trainer. She's going to talk about coaching for connection, strengthening bonds between parents and children. Now, to give us more insights, Zoe, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Now, Zoe, for a start, give us an overview of your background, how you got to Malaysia, and how you got into coaching.
Gosh, okay, so I've been in Malaysia now for 8 years, so this is very, very much my home. And since being here, I've had 2 children, and I have 3 in total. So I have had the joy and the experience of bringing a child up in my home country, which is the UK, and then bringing up our family here in Malaysia. So the diversity of cultures and the way parenting is done has been very, very different. So that's a little bit of background in terms of being a mum of 3. How did I get into coaching? This is really interesting because I never thought that I would be coaching parents and coaching students. That wasn't something when I did my coaching that I thought I would go into. But my husband is a teacher, and he was at school one day, and they had this thing that was called coaching at school. And I was like, what's this? I was really, really curious. And it was about how the students could actually coach the teachers. And I just found this fascinating. So I was like, how can a student help an adult? How can someone get, like, I just didn't get it. I was like, I need to know more about this. I'd worked in corporate back in the UK. I worked at a 5-star hotel as a organizer of corporate events and planning people's weddings. And it had always been everyone hire, they always know better. So when I came to this school, came to a very different country, and then coaching was at the school, I was like, I need to know more about this. So I dived in and just absolutely fell in love with it. The curiosity that it doesn't matter who you are, you could help and facilitate whoever was in front of you. So my curiosity, and it came from students. And I went on and did my my associate's coaching course. Loved that so much. I was like, I want to be professional. Went on and did my professional. I've then done NLP and gone off on the ICF, and it keeps going. I still love it. I'm still very curious. And yeah, now I'm helping students and parents just connect more together in their family homes and help students with exams and things like that. So yeah, it's a journey that just keeps going. And it was a parent so after COVID, I had a parent approach me, and they knew that I helped women with anxiety. And they said, have you ever worked with students? And I said, no, I haven't. I said, I'll be very, very honest, I haven't. I don't know what that would look like, but I'm open if you are to giving it a go. Let's see what happens. And it was just one of the most phenomenal coaching experiences I've ever had, because the student and the younger mind didn't have conditioning, and they were so open to being like, oh, and they just loved being in an environment where they were heard. And yeah, they just flourished. And I've honestly never seen anything like it. So it just kind of went from there. And then there was recommendations from other students, and then parents were like, how can I communicate more effectively? They seem to have a great relationship with you. Yeah, this has just kind of rolled and came out of nowhere for me. So, but I love being in this space.
Now, Zoe, this is a connection. Parents connecting with their children has become more and more challenging. Now, it was pre-COVID, post-COVID. During COVID, it was tough as well because they had to deal with a lot of different challenges. And post-COVID now as well. Many parents, myself included, have challenges trying to connect with our children. So what are some of the key principles and values to what you call the Connected Parent Revolution program?
Yeah, so the Connecting Parent Revolution program is something that I run with parents, and there's 3 parts to it. And the first part is really about connecting to the type of parent that you want to be. It really fascinated me that us trying to parent now in this world, the way it's moving, it is incredibly fast. I think most people would agree with that. We are not prepared to parent in this generation. We've never lived this life before. So for me, I was like, the only way to do this is through coaching and asking questions and being curious, because we've got no idea what our children are going through. Not really. We can guess, but not really. But you need to understand what's the type of parent that you want to be first. There is so much information, there's so much overwhelm about do this, do that when they're babies, and you're reading all the books and you're like, I don't know what to do. This is
And you're trying to be the perfect parent and be the textbook parent. You're trying to read all the books. And then you realize, hang on here, actually, this stuff doesn't really work sometimes because every child is an individual.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I've got 3 children, and I've definitely had those moments in my own personal experience where I've been like, yes, I've nailed it. This is the bedtime routine. Now, my other child, I'm like, why isn't this working? Like, what is going on? So yes, you have to, everyone's different. Like, it's not a one size fits all. So yeah, in the Connected Parent Revolution, I connect to what are your values as a parent. So when you've grown up, what was it about your childhood that was a good value for you as a parent? And maybe what were the ones that you didn't really agree with that you want to change? Like, you get to decide the parent that you want to be. So we kind of dive into this at the beginning, because when you understand what that is, then when people are doing things that maybe you don't agree with, you feel okay with it. And if there's judgment, it kind of just goes over. So to put that into perspective a little bit, like, I've got a 13-year-old daughter and she doesn't have a mobile phone. I'm holding
interesting.
I'm holding that off for as long as I possibly can because of the social media, because of the experience I've had working with students. So, but because I know that's important to me, if other parents don't agree with it, that's okay. Do you see what I mean in terms of it, like a value system? So yeah, the second part of the program is how can you connect with your children? So here I kind of dive into sort of love languages, like, and if you're thinking about corporate, like when you're going to work with someone, like, how do they best receive information? How do you best connect and communicate with them? The same thing applies in your family home. And the love languages, have you ever heard of that before, Brian?
Yeah, love language, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So this for me was really interesting.
Not in a child's perspective, but really from a personal relationship perspective, really, in terms of love languages. How do you, whether you're tactile, whether it's gifts or whatever, how does that apply to children?
So the way it applies to children is I have a lot of parents that will come to me and go, I don't have enough time. I'm too busy with work. There's so much going on. I don't have that time to actually connect. And the way you can figure this out is if you know what your child's love language is, you can focus on doing that with them. So as an example, and I will use my own children as the example. So my eldest, her love language is written. So if I write her a note, so if I'm really, really busy, I've got lots of coaching calls, lots of stuff going on, and I haven't had that connection time that week because it's been a busy week, I'll write her notes in a lunchbox. Now, I know that that's how she receives loves, and that's my way of connecting with her even when I'm not there. Now, my youngest is my son. He is very much touch. He loves having a cuddle. So it's making sure that each night I go in and I prioritize having 5 minutes where we just have a cuddle and a story. I know he feels love each day if I do that with him. So, these are small things. You don't have to spend hours and hours, but they're, quality connection times in the way that they feel loved. And there's a really, really cool game you can play in your family. We do this like every week. We have like a jar, and it's you made me feel loved when, and we will share with each other, mummy, you did this and that made me feel loved. Or I'll say, oh, such and such, my children's name, you did this and that made mummy feel loved. So then you start to understand and recognize as a family, like, what are the actions that you do that make you feel loved? So rather than focusing in on the lack, we're focusing in on the positive and what are the things that are good, what are going to bring the connection, what are going to bring this happier energy into your family home.
Zoe, this is really interesting. But then as a parent, how do I discover my child's love language?
So by doing this exercise, do you feel loved by mommy or daddy? You can ask them the question. Very much when we're in a coaching conversation, you're asking the person who's in front of you, what works for you? And a really interesting question. I'd love to know whether you've ever asked your child this, Brian, but you can ask them, what could I do to be an even better mummy or daddy?
Actually, I have.
Good.
I've asked my daughter, I said, how can I be a better father to you?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in moments like that, you're going to find out what that is. You're going to find out what they need from you. And the question of, when have you felt loved? What is it that I've done that's made you feel loved? And they'll be able to tell you. oh, when you come in and gave me that cuddle, or oh, when you gave me that gift. Some children gift, oh, when we spent time together, do you remember that time when we went walking and it was just me and you with the dog? I really loved that. Or they will tell you, my 5-year-old, I walked him to rugby the other day and he was like, Mummy, I love it when we have this time together.
Oh,
it's
nice.
An indication. Yeah, when you listen, you will be able to hear it.
Okay, then let me ask you something, because this is a thing that a lot of parents grapple with. How do you create a supportive and nurturing environment for your children? I mean, I know it sounds really generic when talking about that. And you've been in Malaysia for 8 years now. So you've seen, as you said, so you come from a Western background, but obviously your exposure is to quite a multicultural background now because of your coaching and what you do. Give us a sense of how different people do it, because there's no one size fits all. How do different, maybe you can give us some examples of different things that people do, and how you as a coach then get them to do better.
So some examples could be, again, it comes back to what is a nurturing home for you. So if I'm working with someone, it's really finding out, well, how do you know when you've got good connection at home? What is an example of that for you? Now, it might be open communication. If it is open communication, okay, so what could you be doing to create more open communication in your home? What are you not doing right now? So I would kind of explore that and understand, what does that mean? Yeah, it's really hard to kind of give examples without knowing what it is that people are calling nurturing, because it is different. It could be that nurturing is like structure in a home, and if they know they've got structure and maybe the children they don't like routine, actually they're getting friction possibly. So it's figuring out, okay, so what's the reason that we've got friction right now? Why don't you want to do this? And listening and figuring out what that is. So I hope that's helpful. I know it doesn't give too many examples.
Okay, then I'm going to ask you a slightly different question.
Okay.
Maybe the same thing a little bit differently. Now, this is a problem that many parents face. They may have grown up, and this is how Malaysia and many middle and upper class Malaysians have evolved. They probably grew up in a background of, say, less than abundance, maybe even poverty, or just very middle class. And then obviously their children, they've done very well in life. The children are in private school, international school, and they worry about how the values that they are instilling in their children. They're also worried around the values that are around, because obviously their children live in a bubble. This is not Malaysia, right? We're all, so how do they, and these are real challenges that I've heard from other parents who also send their kids to international school, and they're grappling with that. So again, this is back to a different way of asking that same question. How do we nurture them and instill the right value systems, and coach them also to also develop things like empathy?
Yeah, I think, empathy, I think, is a good word there, and resilience. So I think what I'm hearing from you is, if they're in a bubble, which a lot of children are who go to international schools, like, how can you make them aware of what's actually going on in the outside world? And I have worked with students who, when they go from kind of doing their A-levels over to university, it's like they're hit with a wrecking ball, because they're like, whoa, wait a minute, like, I have to do my own washing up. What? I have to pack my own bag. Like, there's just so much that they have to take on all at once, as well as potentially being in a different country and culture. So it's a huge hit for them then. So I think it's really important to build this resilience, and as a parent, it's our responsibility to put them in situations where they can experience that. Unfortunately,
so how do we do that? And so this is the big problem. Let me talk about this. Let's zoom in on this. Building resilience in kids who have a lot or live in a little international school, private school bubble. And you've got everything done for you. You've got maids, you've got drivers. How do you build that resilience? Because that's an important life skill. And we need to coach our children so that they will be successful in life, especially in these, as you said in the very beginning of this show, We've never experienced this pace of change before. And these kids need to grow up in a world of AI, and they need to be resilient, they need to be adaptable.
Yeah.
How can we do this? How can we build resilience in these kids?
So it's getting them to do hard things, like getting them to go outside of their comfort zone. Parent being their cheerleader and being there to tell them, you can do this. Let's watch, let's see. I remember a client of mine did this with her daughter. Her daughter went and did climbing. Okay. She was like, oh yeah, let's go and do climbing. And she went and did it for a bit. And then she's like, I don't like this anymore. This is scary. Like, I don't want to climb up this wall anymore. I don't like it, like that. And her mum was like, but you can. Like, let's just try. Let's give it a go. And just, can you take one more step? So it's putting them in situations that are safe, where they are outside of their comfort zone, and then being able to encourage them and show them that actually, if they put just a little bit more effort in, they have the ability to do hard things. So yeah, there's the rock climbing is one of them. If it's not going to kill them to do the washing up. In fact, they're probably going to have to wash dishes at some point in their life. Or, getting jobs, depending on what age the children are. But yeah, it's not going to hurt them to learn life skills, because if they don't learn them now, they're going to have to learn them when they're no longer at home with you. So I think that's a question for parents, because it's uncomfortable and it's challenging, right? When you're asking your children to do things that they really don't want to do. We don't want to do them as adults, but the consequence of not allowing your children to be in those experiences and being there to support them can be that they're then going to be on their own and feeling like they can't do it and they don't have anyone cheering them on. So yeah, I think sometimes people are like, I can't deal with it. I'm too tired today. I don't want to. Fine, someone else can just pick up your bag. Fine, we'll just get the maid to do your washing up. Like, encourage them, make it out with the kids, the younger ones. You can make it into a game, folding the clothes. That can be connection time for you, coming together. Put some music on, do the washing up together. They don't have to do it on their own. So these are like key moments where you can connect with one another and teach them life skills and praise them like they're doing it. Show them that they have the ability.
Now, Zoe, the other thing that from a build that adds as a barrier to a lot of parent-children relationships is when we try to coax performance out of them. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about, and some kids like to do their homework, most kids don't like to do their homework.
Yeah.
We are in Asia. Education is really important. And a lot of parents put a lot of emphasis on, obviously, academics.
Yeah.
How do we encourage our children to be, and coach them really, to be better performers in school?
Okay, so this one, there is a lot of research. There is a really, really good book called Drive, which talks about inner motivation and how important it is when you go out into the real world, the different kind of character you're going to be. And successful people have this inner drive. Now, this inner drive is created through focusing on the process and not the end product. So if we're talking about kind of exams as an example, because you just said academics there, it's rather than going, if you get so many straight A's, I'm going to pay you. I've heard this previously, I'll pay you 100 ringgit per straight A that you get. Like, there's that external motivation, and it's that goal that they are killing themselves almost to get to this expectation. And if they don't meet it, there is this real flat, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. That's where I thought I was supposed to be. Whereas when you focus on the process and it's, how much have you done today? Wow, okay, you did work, great. You didn't do work for a whole hour, but you still did it. When you're running the race, sometimes it's not about the time that you did it in, it's the fact that you got up and you did it. So praise the process and the effort that is being put in and not the end product. Because if you focus on the effort and the process, you can adjust and change. Okay, what isn't working right now? What is working right now? And eventually you're going to get the end product anyway. If you just focus on the end product and don't focus on your process, it's going to be really, really hard for you to actually get to your end game. So process and effort over product. I would definitely advise.
Zoe, one of the things that, and again, you've had the benefit of being in Malaysia for several years. As you coach parents, coach students, and so forth. Have you seen a change in attitude in terms of receptiveness to coaching among parents and also among children in Malaysia?
Yes, I am going to say yes. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And I say that because, there are, I believe the Asian culture is very much, it's about respect. You don't question someone who is higher than you. You do as you're told is kind of the sense that I've got. And when I've had parents come to me, it's quite difficult for them because they're like, my children should respect me, but they don't. Like, what's going on here? The difference that I've seen is kind of, I bring the question to the parents of, okay, what you're experiencing right now is hard. If you don't make a change to your approach, do you think it's going to get better? If you can't see any other way, like, how much of a pain point is this for you to, put the effort in just to try something different and see what happens? And generally, when they come to work with me, it's, I've had enough. Like, I want a better connection. I don't want this breakdown in my family home. I want my child to be open with me. Okay, well, let's start rebuilding that. Let's try something a little bit different and see what happens. And the connection comes back. The communication starts to open more, and the kids are more open and honest about what's going on. But it's not something that comes easy. It requires effort. It requires parents they're trying to learn how to parent, and there's a lot of like conflicting stuff that goes on because your parents brought you up in a particular way, and you don't want your parents to think that what they did was wrong because you're not following their approach, whereas you're just trying to do what's best for your child. So I think the parents are like squished in the middle.
Absolutely.
It's tough being a parent. Like, this really is one of the hardest jobs in the world. We don't get promotions here. We don't get paid.
And there isn't a manual to follow.
Yeah, there's not. So I think everyone needs to give themselves a little bit of credit. Like, parenting's tough, but if you figure out what your values are and what's important to you and what you want from your family, then you can work from that. If you're trying to do what everybody else says, it just gets too overwhelming and you don't know what your road is for the time being. So,
Zoe, this has been such a fascinating conversation, and I really got some insights that has set me thinking about a few things. But before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave the audience with?
I think that the thing that I want to make anyone who is a parent aware of is that we have within us, there's a really good book called The Silent Guide, which kind of coaching changed my parenting. But when I read The Silent Guide, it just opened up this whole kind of new world to me, because we have 3 different parts to our brain, and you have like your human side, you then have what's called your chimp, and you then have your computer. And when I read about this, it fascinated me, because in coaching predominantly we work with the human brain, because that's kind of your logical, your cognitive thinking, your approach to things. Your chimp is like your emotions, and your computer is your habits. It's the things that you do on a daily basis that kind of make up your behavior. And your chimp is 5 times stronger than what your human is. So when you kind of want to go for that run and you plan to be healthier and you're like, no, I've got my plan, my trainers are ready, it doesn't happen, and you're like, I can't be bothered, I'm just going to sit here and watch Netflix. That is your chimp taking over you, and you haven't implemented the systems yet. And when I was reading The Silent Guide, kind of one of the biggest takeaways that I had from this was children don't develop, like their brains, or I'll ask you a question, at what age do you think your brain is fully developed?
My brain, probably like around 18.
Yeah, so most people think it's 18. It's actually 25. So your brain is not so, and adults' brains, so our brains are fully developed. Now, children are predominant, and teenagers, because the hormones are changing, predominantly they're working from the chimp mode, from the emotional mode. So they will have tantrums, they will throw their toys out the pram. Teenagers will go off on one because this is their core operating system. And as parents, we have to show them first how to create the operating system. So when it comes to like revision and stuff like this, like we hope that the teachers are teaching them, but we need to support them. We need to help them put these routines in place for them to follow. We also need to help them understand logic. And there's an acronym that I use, which is ICC, which is give the information that is going on in the situation. You know, what are the consequences of if you do something, and then what's the choice? What do you want to do here? So I use this a lot with my younger ones and my teenager, actually. I do this all the time. It's, you know, okay, if you stay out later, then the consequence is you're going to have to come in earlier. So the choice is yours. You can either come back at the time that we've set, or you can come back later, and your time's going to change. So what would you like to do? So ICC, it's really, really easy. So yeah, knowing that they're working from a different brain than what we are. Like, I used to think when they're having tantrums, I'm doing this wrong. Oh my God, what am I doing wrong as a parent? And it's like, there's nothing wrong with my parenting. It is that they are in this emotional state, and I need to know how to help them process that. So if they're having tantrums, if teenagers are going nuts, like, that's okay. That's the way they're developing. It's part of the process. It's not you. So yeah, I would definitely recommend the Silent Guide. Use the ICC when it comes to kind of setting boundaries and helping you connect a little bit more. I think the last thing would probably be, you know, everything that they're saying is true. Like, they wholeheartedly believe what they're saying to you. They're so emotionally charged. So by saying to them, you know, I believe what you're saying. These are the boundaries. I believe you. Yeah, you're not discounting what they're coming to you with, and he stole my toy and she did this and da-da-da. Okay, I believe you. Let me listen. Okay, this is how it looks for mummy. Here's the information. This is the possible consequence. The choice is yours. What do you now want to do? So you kind of give it back to them, but we have to be the guides. So I hope that was helpful. You understood.
Absolutely, Zoe. Thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been great.
We've been speaking to Zoe Rodger. She's a certified professional coach and trainer. I'm Brian Fernandez, and you've been watching and listening to BizTech's Aha, the coaching show, which is produced in partnership with Corporate Coaching Academy. The show will be on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our syndication partners, TV stations, radio stations, and websites. Thanks a lot for tuning in.